Hello, good afternoon, and welcome to today's edition of the afternoon edition. My name is Isa. Today, we shall be discussing issues that pertains to education, and most especially, the most bulging one now is the issue of the BSc HND dichotomy. So much, right from when I was even down there in secondary school, I remember there has always been this agitation between the BSc holder, the HND holder, the place of work, the advantages, the disadvantages. So many issues clouding this particular aspect of our educational sector. But then today, we are diving into an important issue affecting millions of students across Nigeria. And the National Association of Polytechnic Students, also known as NAPS, represent over 2 million students in our polytechnic institution. And just last month, NAPS made a heartfelt appeal to President Bola Ahmed Tinubu that they are urging him to sign a crucial bill, the bill for an act to abolish and prohibit dichotomy discrimination between degree and higher national diploma students. Beyond that, even at place of work after graduation, there is still that barrier of having a BSc different from an HND in terms of the level they occupy at their place of work. But to raise awareness, NAPS, that's National Association of Polytechnic Students, recently planned rally in Lagos and the Federal Capital Territory. And now let's backtrack a bit. In 2021, the National Assembly passed this bill aiming to abolish the discrimination between the first degree holders and the HND holders, especially in terms of employment and promotion. And the bill has been presented, the bill was presented to President Muhammadu Buhari as at then for his assent, which is the final step for it to become law in the country. So what this bill essentially does is legislate against the unfair treatment of polytechnic graduates compared to their university counterpart. And this issue has been a long-standing concern for many in the polytechnic community. The chairman of NAPS task force as at then was, when he was discussing the issue of the HND-BSc dichotomy, called on President Bola Ahmed Tinubu to please think about this struggle faced by polytechnic graduates. And these graduates often encounter discrimination from employers and from agencies of government. And NAPS is urging the president to sign this bill into law, viewing it as a potential legacy of his administration. And this move would give equal footing to BSc and HND holders, effectively ending the discrimination that affects millions in our labor force. And today, we have a guest who is also part of the top ranking of the National Association of Polytechnic Students, person of Mr. Agada Noah, who is here in the studio to tell us more about this challenge that his colleagues who have graduated are facing in the labor market and also at their place of work. So stay tuned as we discuss this pressing issue and explore what it means for the future of our educational system and labor market. So let's go on a very short break, and then when we return, we'll be having Mr. Agada Noah joining us in the studio here to tell us more about the predicament of the alumni of polytechnics in Nigeria. So let's go for the break.
We are a nation blessed with people of diverse cultures, religions, languages, and opinions. It is ironic that we are now being ripped apart by our greatest strength, our diversity. We have allowed intolerance, insensitivity, bigotry, and nepotism to blind our vision of the greatness we can achieve working together as one. We may not have the same culture, nor religion, nor language, but we all belong to the same nation by the divine will of God. We did not choose to be Nigerians. Nigeria chose us. This nation is our divine heritage, and if we open our eyes, we would realize that what divides us pales in comparison to what unites us. And by the comparison and conciliation of our differences, we will grow until our differences disappear. Our unity cannot be willed by mere declarations, nor do we get unity by ignoring the questions that beg for answers. We must celebrate our diversity and debate our differences without fracturing our unity. Our strength is not in our numbers, but in our unity, because even the weak become strong when united. Nigeria unite. This message is brought to you by Abuja Broadcasting Corporation, owners and operators of ASO Radio 93.5 FM Abuja, ASO Television DSTV Channel 392, Star Times Terrestrial Channel 127, Free TV Channel 507, People's TV Channel 285, and UHF Channel 38.
Mr. President, last Saturday, the country which I have the honor to represent, the Federation of Nigeria, became independent and assumed the rights and the responsibilities of a sovereign state. Today, Nigeria has been admitted into the United Nations organization and assumes still more responsibilities. I wish to make our position plain beyond any matter of doubt as regards the African continent. We in Nigeria appreciate the advantages which the size of our country and of its population give us, but we have absolutely no aggressive intentions. We shall never impose ourselves upon any other country and shall treat every African territory, big or small, as our equal, because we honestly feel that it is only on that basis of equality that peace can be maintained in our continent. We in Nigeria are a populous country. There are about 40 million of us, and our territory is relatively large. We are willing to learn before we rush into the field of international politics. But we are totally unwilling to be diverted from the ideals which we think true. That is the reason, Mr. President, why we in Nigeria shall not be found to align ourselves as a matter of routine with any particular bloc. Indeed, I hate the very idea of blocs existing at all in the United Nations. It seems to me to be a contradiction in terms. When we hear the world crying out for peace, we may receive the inspiration to deal with these intractable problems and be able really to devote all our resources to the advancement of mankind by applying those eternal truths which will inevitably persist long after we ourselves are utterly forgotten. Thank you, Mr. President.
Welcome back from that break, and just before the break I did inform you that we are having Mr. Agada Noah, the Secretary of the National Association of Polytechnic Students, who is also a student of the Kogi State Polytechnic, here with us in the studio, to further enlighten us more about the predicament of those with HND or OND outside the institution, and definitely how can we get a more balanced system for them. So, Mr. Agada, good afternoon and welcome to the afternoon edition.
Good afternoon, sir.
It's nice having you today because for some time now we've seen this issue, this question rearing its head always with respect to how can we create an equilibrium for those who have BSc and then those who have HND. But on a general note, what are some of the specific issues you think students or graduates of Polytechnic do face after graduation?
Good afternoon to this edition. It's a pleasure being here. Yes, the Polytechnic sector and the graduates have faced so many challenges, which is demoralizing. Over the years, we've been hearing, and we've been seeing the issue of HND and the BSc dichotomy. Yes, when students graduate from the institution, going into the labor market, you will find out that when they come for job interviews or job placement, there will now be this segregation of sentiments that says you are a BSc holder, you are an HND holder, so you don't fit in here, you don't fit in here. To me, and I think to the graduates of the polytechnic sector, it is demoralizing, and it is a way of demarketing educational system. Because when someone goes to school to get the full knowledge of the field of study, and during the time of investing into the nation through the labor market, you don't tell the person that is not qualified or is not supposed to be at par with other students. I think it is highly demoralizing and uncalled for.
So at this point, why do you want the government to just grab it? Because we've seen you guys making effort. Why? Is it because of this aspect of just getting job that is a major issue?
Well, it is not just the aspect of the labor market. At least there is what we call educational dignity. We should be proud of the sector that we graduate from. We should be proud that we are polytechnic students. We should be proud that, yes, we are the technocrats of the society. We went to the institution, we are undergoing a course of study, 2 years for the national diploma, you go for industrial training, you come back for another 2 years for the higher national diploma. That is 5 years at a stretch. And you come out to be among the equals of the society, and there is this sentiment tagged on you because you are from the polytechnic. I don't think it's right. So the need for the scrap in the dichotomy. When we say dichotomy, that means there is a huge difference between the two classes. If it's not a point of concern, there won't be a crisis. There won't be much crisis for you to be at parity. So I think you should know more of it, where the dichotomy is so huge, it's so demeaning, it's so painful that it only tells on you when you come to the labor market or when you come to meet with realities after school.
So if you look at what is happening now, we've understood that, over time this issue has been on ground, and we've also seen that, for instance, some students of the colleges of education these days, if you go to some of these colleges of education after their NCE, they proceed with the BSc in the same institution, and that seems to have solved their own problem. Or is it still existing, despite the fact that you have it in the polytechnic?
Yes, you know, the polytechnic, the college of education, and the university are institutions set up for a specific purpose. And the polytechnic, to be precise, is an institution that is set up for vocational technical educations and trainings, which is supervised by the National Board of Technical Education, by the Board of Technical Education. Now, the polytechnic is set out on its curriculum to retrain the manpower system, the technocrats, the technocrats of this same field, these said fields in the society. The colleges of education they are trained to be teachers, or in its equivalent, and when they finish, they can still further to the university. Yes, most universities now have faculties of education, and some are even making affiliates into these colleges of education. But the polytechnic, I think on that ground, there has been success in the sector also, because as at this last month, the National Board of Technical Education has making a dialogue on every stakeholder of the polytechnic for the HND, the Higher National Diploma, to be converted to the BTech, so that we can now know that HND graduates are now converted to BTech, or can now fly the degree of BTech.
So with this particular push that they are making now, don't you think that will bring that imbalance that you people have been agitating for over time.
Yes.
Instead of just creating the balance from the top, now you are creating it from the bottom.
Yeah, it is a major success that we must applaud the National Board of Technical Education for, especially the leadership now, Professor Bugaji, Idris Bugaji. We have seen revolutions in the system. We have seen transformations in the system. Unlike when we were younger, or when we used to hear, and because of this dichotomy, I think there will be major strikes in the nation as a result of this dichotomy by ASUP. I remember in 2013, in 2014, 2017, and the likes. And you see, as technocrats, we are taking the lead now because we are trying to fix the problem of the society to how it used to be. So we are starting from our own sector, and the chairman is taking the lead. Now we are now proposing for the National Polytechnic Commission. We now have the agitation for the conversion of HND to BTech. Yes, I think when this is taken with full consideration, focus, and sincerity of purpose, we can get what we want. And the issue of dichotomy would be a thing of the past. It would have been a thing of the past ever before now, but because the president maybe did not pay prompt attention to technological setting or the polytechnic, maybe that's why it's still lingering to this time. The former president, okay, President Muhammadu Buhari, because the National Assembly passed the bill for the removal of the dichotomy between 2021 22, when the current chief of staff was the Speaker of the House of Representatives. The bill was passed, but when he left, there was no assent to the bill. In fact, when he left, 2 weeks to his handing over in May, we wanted to stage a protest then, and some stakeholders of the society and men of goodwill weighed into it and said, okay, we should wait. When the next administration comes, we can take it over. But I think we are seeing light. We are gradually seeing light in the polytechnic system, and we are confident that as it goes on, we'll get it right in the polytechnic sector.
So invariably, there's no need for any agitation again by your association?
Well, until victory is attained, struggle continues.
Well, that's a very good one. But then, if you look at the issues, just like you've raised, I know Professor Bugaji, Idris Bugaji, for some time now, and I also understand he was also part of our lecturers then in school. But still on this particular issue, looking at what the NBT is doing currently, and looking at the applaud you've also just showered on the present chief of staff to the president, how do you see the possibility of both of them meeting still, since he is now the chief of staff, not the speaker anymore of the National Assembly? How do you see the possibility of them meeting and then see that yes, all this issue is put to bear at the end of the day?
Well, I think for the sake of, should I say, for the sake of bureaucracy, let me use this medium to call on the attention of the chief of staff now, that he should remember the bills that were passed during his time as the speaker, and single out the bill for the abolishment of the national of the BSc-HND dichotomy. He's at the helm of affairs now that he can do this, because we saw that there was sincerity of purpose when he was speaker, especially to this bill. But we are so surprised that then we will not say he was at the corridor of power, but some persons who were at the corridor.
Because he is the fourth in terms of the ranking.
Yes.
So he was in the corridor of power.
No, as in now he's in the kitchen.
He's in the cabinet.
He's in the cabinet now, and even in the kitchen. So we believe that he being in the kitchen now, he can still extend his hand of goodwill to the bill he presided over to the president. And by God's grace, with his effort and that of Professor Idris Bugaji, will have a resounding polytechnic system.
Recently, just now, I remember before now, in my first during my first question, you responded by saying that sometimes it is it brings kind of your pedigree down to see that there is this competition still existing. But then, if you look at it generally, there is also this perception that somebody finishing from a polytechnic seem not to be. There's always this second high look. They look at you, and probably it could be as a result of actually this issue of dichotomy. But then some people have also raised questions with regards to the quality of education. Is it still there? Because presently you are in the system.
Yes, I can boastfully tell you with pride and all sense of humility that the quality of education in the polytechnic system is top-notch, is high. Until today, the regulating body are still trying to maintain that system and the quality of education. You know, the quality, in the polytechnic sector, you have 70% practical, 30% theory.
Is that still feasible?
Yes.
Because even in university, I know of University of Kaduna State Polytechnic. I know of the Yaba Tech Polytechnic. These are great. I think there's also one in Ida, in
Federal Polytechnic,
Ida.
Yes.
These are great institutions that till this moment people still accord them that same respect.
Yes.
That they produce students with high capacity, and then they are able to fit into the society the moment they leave the school.
Yes.
Do we still have it based on the number of institutions, polytechnic institutions that we're having in the country?
In fact, the names the ones you just called are few. We have, in fact, if not all, most of our polytechnic system running sound quality polytechnic curriculum. 70%, I told you the polytechnic is running a 70% practical, 30% theory. Do you see that even if it is politically motivated, any governor, any senator that comes to power, they want to do constituency projects to build universities, university of this, university of this. Do you see them going to build polytechnics? Hardly will you see that somebody wake up and say he wants to build polytechnic as constituency project, as a private institution also. No, because before you build or before you establish a polytechnic, it's 3 times more expensive than a university. A polytechnic,
you have the data to
I can show you, I can tell you confidentially, and you try to make your information
it's no longer confidential. Now we are together.
Yeah, I can tell you with my shoulders high that the polytechnic, you can attest to that. Nobody can just wake up and say, I want to institute or establish a polytechnic, whereby you can see some persons wake up, they make a bill for the establishment of 3-4 universities within the shortest space of time.
But now we are not seeing an advancement. Even in the previous leadership, we are not seeing a kind of an advancement where we don't build more polytechnic, just like you've rightly stated. But we have also started seeing Federal University of Technology these days.
Yes, that is why I tell you it is a university. Setting up a polytechnic is highly capital intensive.
But Federal University of Technology also carry out the activities.
Yes, some are just established with names. Some are established just by the creation or established by names. Go to the institution and see whether they are really fitted into technological setting. I can tell you for sure. Go to anywhere, go to any school unexpected that is called a polytechnic, even a monotechnic. You can see a half-baked monotechnic, a half-baked polytechnic. Even our state institutions, state polytechnics. So with this, that is why you see that you take it to anywhere. A polytechnic graduate cannot stand, a university graduate cannot stand the competition of a polytechnic graduate, because we are grounded to know the technical know-how of everything we are doing.
There's this local parlance that says that everybody says that their mother's soup is more sweeter.
Yes.
So that debate, if you had to start it now, it will definitely take us time, because there is always a profession. There are always professionals in all fields.
Yes.
So we cannot neglect the fact that yes, the polytechnic, they have their own respective specialization in terms of the technical aspect. The university also have, which is also on research and development. But then let us also move forward. What are some of the specific issues now? Because you are within the system. You are a polytechnic student. You are the national secretary of the Association of Polytechnic Students in Nigeria. Is it that you are feeling the pressure before you even graduate, that there's still this issue lingering till this moment?
Yes. And the pressure is high. Very high. Okay. When they are doing recruitments, they will tell you a polytechnic, a university graduate is on level 8, a polytechnic graduate is on level 7. Why? Meanwhile, a polytechnic student went to school for at least 5 years. 2 years ND, 1 year mandatory training, 2 years HND, 1 year compulsory NYSC, in total at least 6. While a university student goes to school for 4 years, graduates and go to service. And in the time of going into the labor market, they will tell a university student, 4 years, okay, you will be level 8, and a polytechnic student level 7. You see, these are part of the issues we are seeing. In fact, just recently, that's why I just told you we are evolving. Just recently, as at last month still, the National Polytechnic, the National Board of Technical Education have removed the barrier between the polytechnic sector that an HND graduates, when employed into the polytechnic sector, will no longer be an instructor, but a lecturer. You know, these were created as a result of those who oversaw the institutions before now. You know, when a person who understands the polytechnic is manning the system, will get an optimal result. So you see, even in the polytechnic, we're having this issue, but now we are now having the barrier removed by the polytechnic now consuming their own products. So you see, when you are given employment into the polytechnic now, you are now employed as a lecturer, no longer an instructor. You see, that's one which we have crossed. Well, when you go into the civil service, we still find this. So when we have a creation of legislation that the dichotomy should be removed, you'll see that we will now have a balance in the system. If a polytechnic and a university graduate who went to school together are in the same system operating, when promotion comes, that's why they go for examination. Let them go for examination and test their capacity. Anybody that wins should climb the ladder of office or move to the next hierarchy. I think that's how it's supposed to be, not laying the bench that a BSc can reach to the bar of this, a HND can reach to the bar of this. You see, that's a societal imbalance.
So for you to have been inside this particular quagmire over time, you must have also studied probably why there was this dichotomy. What could have been the reason from the initial state of it?
Yes. The reason for the dichotomy, let us go back to history. When after the 1976 crisis, the 1970 crisis, the government now thought, okay, let us look for technological means of creating a society that is driven by technology. That's the reason, the skill acquisition, technology, vocational studies. That was why the bringing of the National Board of Technical Education in 1977. Then, moving forward, those who now came through the system, to me, those who now came into the system, do not understand the system, because you can't come to fit into the polytechnic system when you are not a product of the polytechnic. Those who now led the board started introducing things that are not, should I say, are strange to the system. That's where you now see that we now have different imbalances in the system. But to me, I feel that the creation of the board or the polytechnic was for technological enhancement, for innovations, for scientific advancement. Why don't we lean on those foundations? Why diversifying? Why introducing all these things? Yes, we know the university is meant to be managerial in nature, to be
focused on
managerial and research driven, and the polytechnic is for their own purpose, while introducing sentiments. That is where we now have these issues from.
You've been a student, and over time you've also been serving as the national secretary. Have you sat down and discussed with your counterpart in the university system? I mean, National Association of Nigerian Students.
Yes.
So what was the resolution between you guys to see that both of you can join hands together and push this forward?
Well, the National Association of Nigerian Students is the umbrella body of all Nigerian students. Yes. And the National Association of Polytechnic Students is the umbrella body of all polytechnics, monotechnic, and other affiliate institution students. It is our major responsibility, our sole responsibility, to attend to the welfare of polytechnic students and every related issues.
The student,
as it may be.
every related issues, okay.
Then the NANS, on its broader sense, is to mediate on the welfare of every Nigerian student. But first of all, like this African adage that says, when they want to help someone to carry his load, he should first of all carry his front.
But then you are carrying the load, and then you are also discussing with those who should also have mandate in one way or the other with this particular load you are carrying. And then why not discuss this issue and make it more formidable instead of you just carrying the baggage and then to take you.
We are discussing because as at last month, we had a meeting with the national president, which we briefed him how far so far on the issue of this dichotomy and the need for him to also continuously add his voice. And we also have a special advisor, a senior special assistant to the president on student engagement, who is also from this very immediate family you have mentioned of the NANS. You see, we are working assiduously to make this happen. But creation of government, bureaucracies, bottlenecks, and every other factors are limiting us. But we will not shut up. We will not keep quiet. We will keep struggling until victory is attained by every meaning stakeholder of this very institution. Not that we are not discussing, we are discussing, we are moving together, we are talking.
Okay, Mr. Agada, thank you so much for being part of us, and then definitely we'll go on a very short break, and then when we return, we'll continue the conversation with Mr. Agada Noah on this same issue from the BSc and then HND dichotomy, how they can resolve this issue. And I've raised so many issues with him with respect to how NAPS itself is trying to solve this issue, and he has pinpointed that NBT, National Board for Technical Education, under the leadership of Professor Idris Bugaje, is doing so much to establish BTech within the Polytechnic, and that way it will be able to create an ease for them to be able to compete in the society favorably without any denial from the society. So we'll go on a very short break, and the National Secretary of the National Association of Nigerian Students, Polytechnic students, will still be here to continue the conversation with us.
We are a nation blessed with people of diverse cultures, religions, languages, and opinions. It is ironic that we are now being ripped apart by our greatest strength, our diversity. We have allowed intolerance, insensitivity, bigotry, and nepotism to blind our vision of the greatness we can achieve working together as one. We may not have the same culture, nor religion, nor language, but we all belong to the same nation by the divine will of God. We did not choose to be Nigerians. Nigeria chose us. This nation is our divine heritage, and if we open our eyes, we would realize that what divides us pales in comparison to what unites us. And by the comparison and conciliation of our differences, we will grow until our differences disappear. Our unity cannot be willed by mere declarations, nor do we get unity by ignoring the questions that beg for answers. We must celebrate our diversity and debate our differences without fracturing our unity. Our strength is not in our numbers, but in our unity, because even the weak become strong when united. Nigeria unite. This message is brought to you by Abuja Broadcasting Corporation, owners and operators of ASO Radio 93.5 FM Abuja, ASO Television DSTV Channel 392, Star Times Terrestrial Channel 127, Free TV Channel 507, People's TV Channel 285, and UHF Channel 38.
Welcome back from that break, and just before the break we were having conversation on the BSc HND dichotomy with the leadership of NAPS to talk more on this particular issue and how this issue is becoming a burning issue for them, most especially when they are planning to be graduate of Polytechnics, still coming into the society with that mindset that they will be segregated from certain privileges in the society, which for them they feel it is not the best For them also, they are also graduates. They've spent the required number of years to study. So why should there be a difference? And so much issues to discuss. But I want to ask you, because you are now amongst the leadership of this particular association, and you are fighting for those who are already graduates, isn't it?
Yes.
And now you still have some students under you, probably those that are in their OND. What kind of advice would you give them? Would you say they should continue after probably their 1 year internship, wherever they are doing it? They should continue, or they should return back to the Polytechnic to study for their HND. Would you advise them to continue, or they should just seek for admission elsewhere in the university?
Yes, we will advise them to continue.
Despite this lingering issue that has not been solved?
Yes.
They should continue as Polytechnic students?
Yes.
But they already have an OND, so why not advise them to move to
we can't run from our challenges.
Okay.
We face our challenges.
So that's the mindset you've created for the students?
Yes. And we'll make it happen. In fact, by the grace of God, why will we say because our house is on fire?
You have to invite your neighbors to come and quench it.
While we're inviting our neighbors, we should not leave it for the neighbors.
Okay.
We should also stand at that point to put a defense or any measures that can put the fire off, which is what we are doing. And we are getting it gradually. We wouldn't, for any reason, discourage any student
from continuing.
If all of us go to the university to study, who would now know the technical know-how of those fields? Like, as in, even in the university.
But when it comes to the technicalities of this field that you've mentioned, even in the university,
yes,
every course to me is seen as a skill acquisition course, especially if you understand the technicalities within that particular course. You can be a chemistry student. You have to learn the skills that is embedded in that particular field. You can be a biology student. You have to learn the skills it takes you to be a biology student, or the technicalities of you being a biologist. So, these ones are
the theoretical aspect of it.
But they have the practical aspect of it.
Now go to any university. Go to any university. Tell them to take it to their lab. And go to any polytechnic. Tell them to take it to their lab.
Are you saying there are no facilities?
You know the difference. That's why I told you initially that the polytechnic will do 70% of training, 70% of practical, 30% of theory. I can tell you that there are some students of mechanical engineering, metallurgy, foundry, if there is in the university, that doesn't know how, for the metallurgical students, how a furnace look like, a burning furnace. A student of mechanical engineering, they don't even know how their lab looks like. But go to the polytechnic. I told you earlier, the first requirement you have before you get approval for even the name of a polytechnic is that your facilities must be 95% intact. 95%. I can wake up today and say I want to build a university because I have a vast land in my village. But I can't do that to the polytechnic because you won't even be given the license. So that's why I tell you the polytechnic is a critical sector. But those who understand it or those who don't want it to grow brings in sentiment. Though it is the government itself that is creating the sentiment.
But now that you are always saying that it is the government, always I've seen that you've always targeted the government because probably maybe that they have the solution to your,
yes.
Your problem. But the private sector also, don't you think they also have that same challenge with graduates of polytechnics?
The private sectors do not have those issues, particularly, most especially, when it comes to the core fields of the polytechnic. The private sector will willingly want to employ a polytechnic graduate over a university graduate. Because
the statistics doesn't claim so. On several counts.
Maybe you are not correct.
Or no.
On construction, production, manufacturing companies.
If you have the study, you have the recent data for that.
I'll give you an example. We are, as a student of the Kogi State Polytechnic, we went to the Dangote cement factory in Obajana some times ago, and we requested that we have students who want to get employed when they finish their course. And I said, oh, we're all polytechnic students. He said, yes. The director of human resource then told us that, yes, they employ on statistic basis 70% of polytechnic students in their firm. Because these people, before coming from the polytechnic, they have the technical understanding of how a factory runs, especially in the field of study.
Well, yeah, I don't actually argue that, because I've known polytechnics to be like that.
And I've also given you an assignment.
No. You didn't give me an assignment, because I've seen recently also most of the recruitment being done by the Dangote refineries on several counts. I've seen letters, I've read through, I have friends across some of this private sector background, that most of the request letter written to the HODs of all these technical departments, like the engineering and the rest of it like that. And if you look at the Dangote refinery just of recent, most of the recruitment it made were students actually from engineering sector, and most of them are from the university. So that is why. But then it all differs. It all depends on also the interest of the person that owns the private agency or private sector institution. So now, but my major issue here is this: how do you see the government and the private sector working to see that yes, they resolve this issue? Because whether you like it or not, despite the fact that this exists in the government, it also exists in private sector, and I've seen so many issues on that even before entering the studio.
Yes. The government who creates institution should allow the graduates of same institution to enjoy the welfare benefits that are attached to the institution. If the government is taking the lead, private institutions will also do same. A government cannot be discriminating on its own self-created institution and want the private sector to do the same. So if the government removes the benchmark, the dichotomy, the disparity between the HND and BSc, I think the private sector will do suit. Because you know, the private sector is meant purely to maximize profit. So whatever gives them profit, they do. But the government is meant to ensure that the social welfare of its citizens are taken care of. Meanwhile, the economic development of a nation should also reflect on the citizens. So the government should take the lead. The government should remove every stumbling block that is affecting the polytechnic sector. Then the private institutions will now take suit. And I bet you when the government is doing it, the private will not do it, because that's why we have government oversight functionaries that would look into that. But you can't tell me that the National Assembly will do an oversight to the private institutions to see that why are polytechnic students being shortchanged, or underemployed, or under-remunerated, when the government itself is not doing it. So he who seeks equity must come with clean hands, and it must start from the government.
So what is your final appeal to the government with respect to all this?
Well, I am appealing to the government to heed to the national dialogue by the National Board of Technical Education, the co-heads, COFA, and every stakeholders of the polytechnic sector for the need for the creation of the National Polytechnic Commission. When that commission is put in place, it will solve, if not totally, major problems of the polytechnic.
Thank you so much, Mr. Agada Noah, for joining us on the afternoon.
Thank you very much.
It's nice having you, and we hope to have, and we pray that Professor Idris Bugaji will be able to climax this particular issue, cement it in such a way that, yes, instead of this issue, the ways you people have been going through it with respect to creating that balance, it's a very long one. The issue of the creation of the BTech will definitely ease so many of these pains.
By the grace of God.
So this is how far we can go today on the afternoon edition, discussing with Mr. Agada Noah, the Secretary General of the National Association of Polytechnic Students. He is a student of Kogi State Polytechnic, and we pray and we hope that, yes, with time we'll have that balance, and I hope the government will be able to do the needful for us to have equity in our system. My name is Isanu. Have a wonderful day and stay blessed.